And she was like, yeah, because I think I'm too old for you. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, how old are you? And she's like, oh, I'm 28. And that was such a huge compliment for me because I was like, oh, so wait, how old do you think I am? She's like, what's good, everybody? Welcome to Chat with Jat. It's been a while. I think a little bit over a week. It is midnight. It is the 3rd of September. So clearly, I have no plans. I'm by myself. I don't have any significant other that's telling me to get off the phone or get off the computer. So, I'm all by myself. Yeah, so that's like a little thing that Bill Burr does, and it always cracks me up. So I don't know how I sounded when I did that. But, anyways, what I wanted to talk about today was just life, what's going on. And I did something big last week, which was I finally set time aside to do like a fall cleaning, if you will. So my room was a hot mess. And because of that, I couldn't really like shoot a video in my room because everything was like all over the place. So I finally got around to doing things and putting everything together. And now it's more presentable. So I mean, for you, nothing changed. The background's the same, whatnot. I did get like a little cold. I don't know how I got it. I went clubbing last Saturday for the first time in a long time with a gang of very, very, very good friends of mine. And I would have to say, like, I'm really done with the clubbing scene. Like, I just don't. I just find it so weird. Like I'm in my early 30s. I'm saying early 30s, like fuck yeah. I'm turning like 33 sooner or later. And going to a club, like I went to a club that was like, like it's meant for professionals, not like for young people in college or university. And the vibe was just interesting. A like I'm the type who would party anywhere with my friends. Like if we're having a house party or we're at like a cottage or like at the beach or just kicking it at a park or doing a barbecue, like I would be super happy. But being at a club, like you can't really socialize, because it's like you gotta like you're always having intimate conversations. You're not like talking to everybody at the same time or whatever. So there's that. Then there's the whole like dancing thing. Like I remember when you were young, it was fun trying to go around, talk to people, and if you're lucky, you'll make eye contact with somebody that you think is nice, and then you might dance, you get to know them, whatever. But in the older clubs, it's more like everybody's in their own little crew, everybody's super cliquey. I still went around, with one of my buddies, and we went around, we were like talking to people, getting to know people, and something super cool happened. I was talking to this girl. She said she was like a lawyer and all that good stuff. And then I was like, all right, let's stay in touch. And she was like, no, I'm good. So I was like, all right, cool. If she says she's good, then that means she's like not, she was into me to talk to me, but she wasn't there to the extent that, maybe she would want to exchange contact information in front of her, like brothers or cousins or whatever, because she was like with a bunch of guys. Or maybe her man was there and she didn't even mention it to me because I didn't even ask. I mean, the way I look at it is like, if she doesn't tell me, then I don't care. So I was like, all right, cool, and then she was like, yeah, because I think I'm too old for you. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, how old are you? And she's like, oh, I'm 28. And that was such a huge compliment for me because I was like, oh, so wait, how old do you think I am? She's like, I think you're 25. And I'm like, all right, yo, fuck getting your number. Like, this was the best compliment I could get today. So I'm like, I'll check you later. And I was like, I'll see you around. And, I did my thing and went back to my friends. And that really stuck with me, you know. And I was just like, oh damn, you know, maybe the skincare routine that I'm doing is helping, or going to the gym, you know. That's life, you know. I feel like when you get yourself out of shitty situations, your body just shows itself, you know, like you go back to your true self. That's why people say, like, if you're stressed out, you're always working, you're always stressed, you're not in a good mood, like it starts to show one way or another, you know. You're not as sharp, you know, you don't stand up with your chest up, you're not excited to be alive, you like start, you know, crouching, you might start losing some hair, you might start putting on weight because you're eating a lot of crappy food and you're not moving around as much. But when you're like upbeat, you're happy, you're excited about things, then you know you're taking care of yourself. You go to the gym. If you eat crap, you know you're gonna burn it off because you're gonna go running, you're gonna go do something, you're gonna go biking. You know, you make time for yourself. You know, to like fucking brush your teeth at night and wash your face and put like the right creams or whatever. So it's it's important, you know. And I realize like that is important because for me, like, there's been so many times where I've told myself like I need to get out of this situation because this situation is not good for me. And that could be like a employee employer type of situation, personal relationships, friendships, and you know, they say like, I remember watching this like a documentary where they talk about how twins age. And they would say like, oh, you know, these twins grew up in the same environment, they grew up together, but obviously once they get old enough, they go their separate ways, you know. So when they hit like college or uni, they might start going into different paths entirely. One could be like a doctor, one could be working around like chemicals or something, or one could be in a bad relationship, one could be in a good relationship, or one could never get married and the other one gets married. And then as they age, you start seeing some of them look like a lot older than they really are. Hold up, I need to drink some tea. This tea, okay, this tea that I have is, it's like actually a few years old. I'm not a big tea person. Like, you know, tea, you can go like super bougie tea, which is like fancy, and they have like these dedicated stores for them, or they used to have dedicated stores for them before COVID. And they would tell you all kinds of things to like gas you up. They would be like, oh yeah, you know, this tea, it was picked on the Himalayan hills, and it's inaccessible to humans. So they would train monkeys to go up there and get it, and they bring it down and give it to the humans. And you'd be like, wow, monkey tea, like this is epic, you know, like not even, it's like many people involved, you know, a monkey, then the monkey hands it over to the stork. Is that what it's called? Those big birds that have huge beaks, and that just brings the bag of tea down to the human, and the human packs it up and sends it straight to Montreal so that you can have it. But anyways, there's those type of teas. Then there's the really simple ones where you can just go to your grocery store and buy it in a box. And I mess with both of them. Like, I love both, you know. And I like the simple ones because they're easy to do. Whereas the complex ones, you need, you know, the loose leaves. You need to like put it in a little thing, pour the water, make sure it doesn't flutter around, take it, clean it, all that nonsense. So it's rare. But I remember when I was being sold on this tea, I wasn't making this up. They told me, oh yeah, this tea was picked by monkeys and in a remote region, and it's super rare, and that's why it's so good. And I'm like, yeah, it's so good, like it's gonna make me stronger and more special and more sharper than the rest, you know, because they're always touting like the benefits of tea. So I haven't had this tea in years. I don't even know if like the leaves are trash now and it's like completely useless, but it still has its flavor. I remember the flavor and it tastes just like it. So I guess it's still good. So big news, like for those who are in Canada, I've been meaning to, you know, I was like so close, like it just so happens, you know, it's Virgo season. My birthday's around the corner, so I was just like, yo, I'm gonna treat myself. I'm gonna buy the Tesla X Plate, you know, $200,000 car. Who cares? I could do it. I'm rich. I can afford it. Well, I'm just fucking with you. I'm not at all. But what I did was, what I noticed was, let me share my screen here. If you read this, oh, it's $228,000 for a Tesla X Plate. There's something new now, and this is where they get you. The essentially $21,000 federal luxury tax. So this is new. It did not exist in Canada before, and a lot of people are giving mixed messages. Those who never dream of having a luxury car or a boat or whatever are more likely than not supportive of this initiative. Then there's people like me who are ambitious and want to be able to buy something that is luxurious over 100K, which is not much these days, because you could buy a Toyota RAV4 or a Toyota 4Runner and it easily adds up to 70 grand. So, you know, if you want to get like a nice Benz or something, it's possible that it's going to run over 100K. And it's not, this number 100K, it's not indexed to inflation or anything. So people like me, I'm not a big fan of it. And then obviously the rich, they're not a fan of it. I'm sure there's exceptions to all of these buckets. But the luxury tax, to keep it simple, it's if you're buying anything over 100K when it comes to cars, you're paying a luxury tax. If you're buying a boat over 250K, you're paying a luxury tax. It's only paid one time on a new vehicle. It is coming into effect on September 1st. So it's already in effect. It went live. But this is where it gets interesting. And I don't know how they're going to do this. It applies to sales agreements that go back to January 1st, 2022. So I think what that's saying is, let's say you bought a car on January 5th, 2022. And it's like, you know, imagine a custom made car, like a Hummer. You ordered a Hummer, you paid for a Hummer or whatever, the new electric Hummer, new Ford Lightning, even a Tesla X Plate, and they messed up your order and it's not coming yet or whatever. And now you got it after September, then you have to pay the luxury tax. The retailer, manufacturer, or the importer is responsible to is responsible to remit the luxury tax to the government. And obviously they're just going to pass it on to the customer, right? Like nobody's going to eat it, because these businesses are already low margin businesses and it's high volume stuff. Maybe I'm lying. Like luxury cars are typically low volume business, but I feel like a lot of them are starting to become higher volume business and with smaller or medium high margins, and they still are not going to eat the costs. They're going to pass it on to you. The issue here for me is the impact on like niche providers and how far reaching the government is. Like, let's say you saved up all your money, you become a YouTube star, you're a doctor, whatever, you buy a super nice car. They are so far reaching with these improvements. So let's say you bought a nice car, you bought a Range Rover, and I don't know how much it costs. Let's say it was $150,000. Okay, fine. The way they're going to calculate the taxes, they're going to say, okay, it's a lesser of two evils. 10% on the full 150, so 15 grand tax. That's one, option A. Option B is the excess over 100 grand. So if it's 150 minus 100, the excess is 50, 20% of that. So that means 20 grand. So the lesser of two, 20 grand or 15 grand. Okay, you're paying 15 grand. Okay, check. So the dealer is gonna say, oh, sorry man, I'm passing the 15 grand to you, too bad, so sad. Then what's crazy is if you do any improvements to the car, you're gonna have to pay a luxury tax on that too. And this is what blows my mind. So if you do an improvement, like let's say you get the car wrapped, let's say you get new rims, let's say you you modify, I mean, well, I don't know why you do this to a new car, but you change the computer settings so you have more torque or more horsepower or whatever. All these modifications are also subject to tax, which is crazy. So it's not even like, because the way they look at it is like, oh, don't try to play stupid and, buy like the car without all the options so you pay less tax, and then you go to other places and you get all the options and you save taxes like that. So they're trying to get around that loophole, but I just find it like really overreaching, and I'm like, I don't even know how they're going to enforce this, but this is going to be creating like opportunities, like I'm sure there's no way to enforce it. So I'm sure there's like specialized Mercedes dealerships that have that are able to do XYZ that the regular dealership won't do for you because you're going to pay tax on it, or they'll do it for you but you don't do it because you don't want to pay the luxury tax, and then you go do it at these guys. But the thing is, like, is there going to be controls between being a Mercedes certified repair shop, for example, or a custom boutique or whatever? Like, there probably doesn't have to be a handshake agreement between the two to make sure that the manufacturer doesn't lose some kind of status with the government, that they enforce that all these billings that you guys are doing, you need to tell us and you need to remit it to the government. The taxes, you need to remit the taxes to the government. But then there's the other flip side, which is like, I feel like this might be putting a lot of pressure on sales for custom companies. There's actually a lot of custom companies in Canada that make cars, or like make sports cars, or make like speed boats or whatever, and they charge over 100K or 250K, and I just wonder if it's going to impact their sale. Are people going to stop buying things brand new and they're just going to go buy it used? And this is something that I'm thinking about. And keep in mind, this applies to leases and purchases of cars. So nobody cares if you lease a car. If you're saying, oh yeah, I don't have to pay luxury tax, I'm just leasing it, it costs me $1,000 a month, they don't care. If you're releasing a Range Rover for $1,000 a month, nobody cares. The value of the car, let's say it's $150, the dealership still has to remit that cost. So then they leave it up to the dealership to figure out how they want to pass that cost on to you. Do they want to blend it into your lease? Do they want you to pay it up front? Are they going to bake it into the interest rate, like, or the residual value? Like, what is it? But that amount still has to be paid, even if you lease it or not. So no matter what, you're getting screwed. And it sucks because like I'm finally getting to that age where, I feel like I can sooner or later make a move and buy something nice. And now it's like, oh yeah, well, yeah, there you go. You're already paying 15%. And then on top of that, the sales taxes that we pay, 15% sales tax, it's on top of the luxury tax. It's like it's embedded. And the response of the ministers were like, oh yeah, well, congratulations if you can afford a nice car. But it's not that. Like, it shouldn't have been, oh, congratulations that you can afford a nice car, because a lot of people work their ass off. The middle class works their ass off to be able to get something nice. And if you want to treat yourself, you should be able to treat yourself without having to hand over more money to the government when they're already taxing you to death on your income taxes. Like, it just makes no sense. Like, you're getting taxed on your income tax, you're getting taxed on a luxury tax because you wanted to buy something nice, then you're paying sales tax on top of that, then you're paying tax at the gas station, you're paying property taxes at home. Like, it's crazy. When is this shit gonna end? This luxury tax 100% should have been based on net worth of people, as opposed to just blindly taxing everyone and everything. So I think the governments should have said, instead of going after people trying to buy things and discouraging spending, they should have just said, hey, everyone who has a net worth over $100 million, there's an asset tax of 1%. That's it. It applies to corps, it applies to banks, it applies to everybody. Like, that's it. I think they're already doing that with banks, and I think there was something that said, if you're buying a car, used car, because it applies to cars after 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Yeah, see? The luxury tax is intended to be a one-time tax imposed on a subject vehicle above the 100K price with the date of manufacture after 2018. I've read somewhere, and this is kind of ambiguous to me, but they're saying, like, if you buy a car, it's on you to make sure that the luxury tax was paid when it was brand new. If you cannot validate that it was paid when it was brand new, then the onus is on you. Like, the burden falls on your lap now to pay it. And that's ridiculous. And that applies to cars after 2018. So this is where it's getting kind of tricky, and I don't know if I'm just misunderstanding this, but like, imagine it's a 2019 G-Wagon, and in 2022 or 2023 you see that, you know, you want to buy it, 2019 G-Wagon, it's used, but you know the luxury tax was never paid. Like, does it apply for that? I'm just reading a bunch of different websites to see what I can find here. Okay, so this is cool for used cars. Okay, so they're saying a dealership that is registered vendor of subject vehicles sells a used subject vehicle priced above 100K, so a used G-Wagon. The subject vehicle was previously registered within the province of Alberta. The luxury tax will not apply to the sale because the vehicle was previously registered to Alberta. So if it's a used car coming in from the States, then you will pay your luxury tax because it was never registered. Why is my mouse moving? It was never registered in Canada or in any province. Here, this Canadian government says the luxury tax could apply to subject vehicles above the price threshold that are leased out by registered vendors. The luxury tax will apply if a registered vendor of subject vehicles owns a subject vehicle above the price threshold that has not been previously registered in Canada or province, and provides the right to use the subject vehicle to a lessee, so that could be like you or me, under an agreement that is a lease, license, or similar arrangement. The luxury tax will be payable by the registered vendor at the time at which the lease has been when the lessee first has rights to use. The luxury tax would not apply to leases of used subject vehicles valued above the price threshold if they have been previously registered with the Canadian government or province. So there you have it. And this is what I was talking about, the improvements. Anything that you do or modify. The luxury tax on improvements will apply to improvements that total at least 5K. So whatever you're doing under 5K is fine. I just can't believe it. It's interesting, no? So yeah, that's happening. Luxury tax is real. It's here. It's going down. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I think hopefully the blowback isn't real, but like, I'm just thinking about people who buy, like, the wealthy Canadians who want to buy like a business jet or whatever. The tax is a huge impact, and that's why I feel like they have been so reckless, because you know, companies like that build business jets, their margins aren't massive. Their margins are very tight. Like, their margins are super tight. Like, margins are sometimes like 10%, 15% if you're lucky. For them to say, yeah, we're gonna slap on 10% as a tax, how would buyers react? You know, like I remember, like, okay, Bombardier business jet, this price, let's say. But like the truth is, like, people who have like crazy money, like, okay, let's say the Global 5000, it goes for $50 million. 10% of that is $5 million. So the government's trying to get $5 million from a Canadian who's going to buy a business jet and register it in Canada. So now you ask yourself, will this guy do this? No, he won't. You know what he's going to really do? He's going to get that jet registered in another country. That jet will never be registered in Canada. That jet will be based somewhere else. That guy would probably be based somewhere else too. And he might just fly back to Canada to see his family here and there. But Canada's never going to see those taxes. I just don't see how the government, like, it's going to be huge. Like, no Canadian is going to be willingly paying $5 million in taxes for buying a jet. Like, I know for a fact it's not going to happen. So the only people who are really getting screwed here are people who are spending cars. Because planes, you can get it registered in other countries. I don't know what the exact rules are, but they don't have to get it registered here. Do planes have to be registered based on passports? I don't know. Wait. Okay, so here, see, the Americans, for example, say this. You can register a plane if it's not registered in another country and you are a U.S. citizen, a corporation that's organized under U.S. laws. So I feel like anybody, like, a lot of people are going to say, F you, Canada. They're going to go set up a corp in the US and just buy through their corp. They'll fund the corp and the corp will buy a US based corp. Or if they're already American, they're just going to do it in America and they're just going to say, screw Canada. I'm not paying $5 million in taxes. I can live an amazing life anywhere around the world for $5 million, you know? So I don't know who's going to do this. I don't know how it's going to impact anyone or improve anybody's life. If the government was serious, I feel like they should have taxed like asset bases of people that have, like, people and corporations that have more than $1 billion. That's it. Just tax their asset base, a small amount. And then when it's more than 5 billion, so on and so forth, it's a little bit higher or a little bit less or whatever, you know, like a stepladder approach, as opposed to punishing people who want to grind and go the extra mile to get something nice for themselves. Now you're just taxing them even more. You're taxing them in their income, taxing them on the car, you're taxing them on sales tax, you're taxing them when they're pumping gas. You're like, when do people get a break? It is ridiculous. Or they should say, if this is the person's first luxury car, it is forgiven. Because it's like, oh, congratulations, man. You made it. You actually made it. You're paying a lot of taxes. You're actually a very contributing member to society, as opposed to every other wealthy person that finds ways to not pay taxes by, you know, earning all their income in a corp that trades with another corp overseas. Then that corp is charging management fees. So this corp in Canada is probably not making a lot of money, and it's a corp all the way in the other side in the world with no income, corporate income taxes, that has all the cash. You know what I mean? Like, those guys are not doing shit. So I find that really annoying. All right, so that's all for today. I know it's kind of late, but I did talk about my little thing, you know, my amazing compliment that I got last week. Oh yeah, and to wrap things up, I was telling my boys this the other day, and I was just like, yo, it's crazy how far we've come in life. You know, when we're young, we used to all like pitch in $30, $40, $50, and we'd all pitch in and buy some bottle. And this time we were being told by the club, like, hey, you know, this is the minimum spend, and you guys got to spend it. And at the end of the day, each person's minimum spend was like $150 or more. And I was like, God damn, it's crazy how time changes things, you know? But it was fun. And yeah, I'm probably not going to do it again for a little bit. Like, I'd rather just kick it and spend that money buying a nice bottle and drinking it in my backyard, you know, by the pool or something, than doing this. So yeah, that's all I got to say. Take it easy, everybody. I'll see you on the next video. and peace.